Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So, if you all are ready, then we can start. So, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I understand today is the last lecture. Is it correct?
Yes.
Today is the last lecture. And somebody has sent a message that they want to see the last year question paper. I was thinking if you all agree, then maybe on Friday that will be extra class on which we can just discuss, last year's question and answer. If you want, we can do that. But otherwise, today will be the last lecture. So as far as research methodology is concerned, we had started telling that research methodology is a 6-step process. Like step 1 is there I have written everything, formulating and clarifying research topic. The second step is literature survey. And then third step is research design. Then fourth step is data collection. And the fifth is data analysis. And the very last step is what is called interpretation and report writing. So today we will discuss on the last step, interpretation and report writing. You see, after collecting and analyzing data, the researcher has to accomplish the task of drawing inferences followed by report writing. That is basically it's part of the research work. Once you have analyzed the data, now you have to infer what this data means. You have to find meaning to your result. And this has to be done very carefully because misleading conclusions may be drawn and the whole purpose of doing research may get vitiated. So you have to be very careful while interpreting the data. It is only through interpretation the researcher can expose relations and processes that underlie his or her findings. It is only through interpretation. Suppose you are studying a hypothesis testing. If hypotheses are tested and upheld several times, the researcher may arrive at a generalization that you can say, okay, this is this. But in case of researcher had no hypothesis to start with, he would try to explain his finding on the basis of some theory. That is what is most of the time we do. We have experimental results, and then we try to understand the result on the basis of some theory. And this may at times result in new questions when you try to compare your experimental data with some theoretical prediction. That sometimes it may result in a new question leading to further research. And also once you have done all those inferences, then all this analytical information and consequential inferences may well be communicated, preferably through a research report to the consumers of research results. So once you have done you have got an inference of your research, then you should communicate it to research community. So why the question comes, why you need to interpret? Let us ask this question, why interpretation? Why interpretation is required? Interpretation is essential for a simple reason that the usefulness and utility of research finding lie on proper interpretation. It is being considered as a basic component of research process because of the following reasons. Why you want to interpret? Through interpretation, the researcher can well understand the abstract principle that works beneath his finding. Through this, he can link up his finding with those of other studies. Having the same abstract principle, he can link his studies with earlier work done by other researchers. Also, interpretation leads to establishment of explanatory concepts that can serve as a guide for future research studies. No, for all this reason, you need to interpret your experimental findings. It is always advisable before embarking on final interpretation. It is better to consult someone having insight into the study and who will not hesitate to point out omissions and errors in your logical argumentation, who can advise you on this. That is, it is always good to before you interpret your result, you should consult a expert. Okay. So then once you have interpreted your result, then comes the report writing. So what is the significance of report writing? Let us say significance of report writing. Writing of report is part and parcel of research project. Any project you do, anything you do, unless otherwise you have a final report, so your project is not complete. It is considered a major component of research study. Writing the report is one of the major component of research study. The research finds and the purpose of research are of little value unless they are made known to others. Suppose you did some research and if it is not known to others, then your research has very little value. So whenever you do any research, any new result, you have to let it know other people in the community. The writing of the report is the last step in research study. So writing of the report is the last step in a research study. And it requires a set of skill. So, this requires how to write a report. It requires a set of skill. The tasks should be accomplished by the researcher with utmost care. So sometimes maybe it is good while writing a research paper or a report, the researcher may seek the assistance and guidance of experts for the purpose. It's always good so that you may have a very good result. But if you cannot prepare a good report, then you may not get that much appreciation. So it's very important that you know write the report in a very professional way. So what are the can you change the page? What are the types of research report? Somebody is coming. The research report can be an oral or a written presentation of important and useful aspects of research work done. It can be also oral sometimes, or it can be written. So if I classify, you can say oral research. So you can do a research paper. We'll see, go one by one. This. Finally, it's also a PhD. So oral report, basically it's a presentation of one's research work in scientific meeting, like you say conference, workshop, symposium. So when scientific meetings, you can make oral presentation. Then you have research paper. This is a report that is basically published in journals. Or magazines. Then PhD thesis is a report of the entire work done by a researcher. Then finally, you have to submit it to a university or an institute for award of degree, award of your Doctor of Philosophy. So oral reporting at a conference or a seminar requires, really elaborate preparation. So I will, let me see, oral reporting. A conference or a seminar towards elaborate preparation. Then written, writing the report is easy, but making a oral presentation in a conference or a seminar, that requires more elaborate preparation. We'll see that. So can you change page? So let me write down what are the points to remember to be in Preparing and oral. So first thing, what you have to do? So you have to know first, your this oral presentation is either 15 to 30 minutes or 45 to 60 minutes. First, you have to prepare a outline, can be drawn. एकदम चला गया. Based on the time. The outline can be drawn based on the time outline, whether you have given time 15 to 30 minutes or 55 to 60 minutes. Depending on time, you have to draw outline. Suppose you have, let's say you have 45 to 60 minutes with you. In this case, one may have enough time time to one introduce the topic, and also you can discuss the definition of the problem. Then you can describe the method, techniques used, technique employed, and then चला गया. Present results and conclude. So if you have 45 to 60 minutes, so you may have to have enough time to do all these things. But suppose you have, this is for 45 to 60. Suppose you have 15 to 30 minutes. In this case, less informative materials must be dropped. Methods and techniques used can be presented very briefly without going into technical details. But much time should be reserved for results, conclusion, and further directions. So you should, for a 15 to 30 minutes presentation, you should keep much time to be reserved for results, conclusion, and further direction. No, you should, if 15 to 30 minutes, you should give more focus on these aspects rather than, introduce the topic and discuss the definition of the problem, describe method and techniques applied, and then present result and conclusion. So you can make brief all those things, but you can keep more time you spend on results, conclusion, and further directions. Can you change this? Can you change the screen? It is good and very helpful practice to write the talk before presenting it orally. You should always, though you are making a oral presentation, it is advised that you write down, whole of your talk before presenting orally. Then evaluate at the written material, and then you look to your all the written materials and ask two questions. One is, one question you ask, why should the audience listen your presentation? And second question you ask, is the presentation match with the standard of the audience? So revise the presentation until, so you have written down all your presentations, and now you read that, and every time you ask this question, why should the audience listen to your presentation? And second question, is the presentation match with the standard of the audience? Revise the presentation until you get convincing answer to the above two questions. Okay. After we have done, the most crucial part of a oral presentation is the actual presentation in front of the listeners. The what is called the stage fright is the bane of most presenters. There is no shortcut to overcome this fear. You can improve your presentation skill by, you can by getting feedback after you have spoken. So you have to, because this stage fear, you cannot overcome this unless otherwise you keep on practice and practice. And you can always, after your presentation, you can get ask for feedback to some of your friends or colleagues who are there. Getting feedback from them, that will help you to improve your presentation. And also, while making the oral presentation, you should keep in mind certain things, like you should always concentrate in your body language. Smooth movement of your lips. Slowly you can walk across the stage. An occasional smile and pleasing manners would endear listeners. So you have to be very pleasing manner and occasional smile you should give, and always look relaxed and comfortable. And this is another important aspect. Eye contact should be maintained with the audience. You should maintain the eye contact with the audience. let your eye move uniformly around the entire audience. So I've seen many times, sometimes the speaker speak looking at only one part of the audience. That is considered not good. You have to you move uniformly around the entire audience and not focus on any particular person or a particular part of the audience. No, this is very important. And before you make your oral presentation, one or two rehearsals of the your oral report in the presence of colleagues, supervisor, and collaborators can be exercised. You can do that. That way, yeah, it will help you to complete the presentation in allotted time. So once or twice you could do the rehearsal, that will help you to complete the presentation in allotted time, and also you can improve the quality of presentation by taking feedback. And also when you present a couple of times, you can maintain a fluency of the presentation. So that will help you. Moreover, during a long presentation, the one of the advice is given is that the speaker can stop the presentation at various stages. I remember Professor Ganguly used to stop after periodically during the talk and ask you question. So that is what research methodology says. The speaker can stop the presentation at various stages, seek comments and questions from the audience, and then proceed. This will make the presentation attractive, interesting, and also allow the audience to clarify their doubts so that they can follow the work. Your clarification should be clear, and when somebody asks a question, your clarification should be clear and convincing. During the presentation, never go into arguments with the audience. Never go with the argument with the audience. And sometimes your confidence get boosted if you approach the situation with a feeling that the expert panel is there to help you. You can suppose your supervisor is there on the while you are doing this oral presentation, then you feel better. You feel more confident that okay, if some question somebody asks, if you are not able to answer, then maybe your supervisor is there to help. So that is one thing. It should show. You should feel more confident. So this is all about, I told you, oral presentation. When you do oral presentation, you should keep in mind all these things. And similarly, second part, we will see writing a research paper or a thesis. The research paper is a report published in a journal or magazine or conference proceeding. Research paper. The report. Published journal. Somebody wants to come. So research paper is a report published in a journal or magazine or sorry, our PhD thesis is a lengthy PhD, research paper are published in either journal, magazine, or conference proceeding. Whereas PhD thesis is a lengthy, original, and substantial document. Essentially, the role of PhD thesis is to demonstrate the research person's original thinking and contribution to topic of research. It's a lengthy and substantial document. Essentially, demonstrate research some original thinking contribution to topic of research. Okay. Next page. Now, suppose the question comes, why should a researcher report his findings? Why should a researcher report why he should report his findings? Every research investigation is carried out with certain objective. Any research, it has got certain objective. The outcome of the research work may add new information to a theory or may have technological applications. The research result may be useful to another research problem. Sometimes, your research result may be useful to some other research problem. Maybe sometimes some other researcher may be working or planning to work on the same or similar type of research work. So sometimes several researchers doing the same research is a waste of time. Now, unless the solution of the problem is needed very urgently. Always repetition of work should be avoided by research community. Suppose you do some research work, you don't report. Suppose we do some work and we don't report. Then some other person in the some other part of the globe may be doing the same work. Already they might have already done. So then my work will be of no value. So, it's very important that we should be, we should avoid, repetition of research work in the research community as much as possible. So the outcome of the research work will become known to the scientific community only if we publish. Through this publication, we let research community know that we have done this work, so that people can take your result and they go move forward rather than repeating the same work. So in view of above, it is important to report a work in an appropriate journal. You have to report your work in an appropriate journal. Okay. So now we'll see what is the characteristics of a good report. Let us see. So now you know why you should research, because you let other people know what you have done. You should not repeat the same research work that has been already done somewhere else by some other researcher. What is the characteristic of a good research report? Let me see. Okay. Good. What is the character of a good research report? Now, first thing is that the reading matter of a report should be clear and interesting. The write-up should be logical, clear, and concise. Basic quality characteristics of a good report is a scientific report basically is good presentation. It must have some of the point you should keep in mind is good presentation, good organization of chapters or sections. So you should give your result with a good accuracy, clarity of presentation. You should not make some contradictory statements. So it must be free from predictions and confusion. Similarly, so some of the points you should keep in mind while preparing a report is, we talked about oral presentation. First, an outline of the report has to be prepared. You must prepare an outline, a sketch of the what information to be conveyed must be made. The one can write down various topics, subtopics to be considered, and what materials to be presented in them. So what are the sections you want to keep in your report writing? You should write them, and what are the material you want to put there. And overall, the sentences which are to be expanded, reworded, and verified for its validation can be marked. Suppose when you are writing certain sentences, you have written, but you want to expand that. All those things you can mark. And the outline, once you have an outline, that helps us concentrate on what is to be presented, because once I prepare outline, then I know what are the things to present it. And then I can develop a logical relationship between different parts of the report, a smooth flow of content and a continuity in the presentation. All things can be maintained if I do a outline. And this outline, once you have prepared the outline, that can be discussed with your guide, collaborators, colleagues, and experts in your area. Based on their comments, the structure of the report can be modified. So this is what, like, when you write your thesis, you can use all these tricks. So last, let me discuss how to write a journal paper. Journal paper structure. In a journal paper, you must have all read paper. Sometimes you will see there is a title. This title is sort of indicate the area of research. It gives a indicates area of research. Also, what is unique about the work? Your title should come. Since the research paper is identified, suppose when you search research paper, you identify by using the keywords. So it is always better to keep some keywords in your title, so that when people search, so that they will find your paper. And you should not make this title more than 10 to 15 words. So that is, you should keep some keywords, not more than 10 to 15 words. Then once you have a title, then you write abstract. Here you give away all the important results of your work, because only the interested people will read your whole paper. Therefore, the abstract should have positive information about the content of the paper and summary of the work reported in it. Basically the purpose of the abstract is to inform efficiently. Without reading a whole paper, a general reader can know the outcome of your paper. So you should write your abstract in such a way, in an efficient manner. So without reading a whole paper, a general reader can know what is the outcome of your paper. So then comes introduction. Here, what you do, you write what is your work, you give some background. Let's get some background. Well, why it is important? And here you can mention other technical records. part. What has been understood and what is required to understand more. You can mention here your earlier work and model use. Then you can say how you are going to address this problem. What is to be more to be understood, and then how you are going to do this. Then you write experimental detail. So here, you write such a way that somebody else can reproduce. If somebody else wants to do the experiment you have done, he should be able to reproduce that. That much information we should give in the experimental detail. Then results, actual statements you have to give. Statement of facts. Whatever you have observed, you have to mention. Then the last one is discussing. So discussion where you try to understand the implication of the result using scientific argument. So here you understand the implication of results using scientific argument. Go to next. Then you write conclusion. Somewhere this abstract and conclusion is similar, but only in case of conclusion you have a greater flexibility to explain the work and future perspective. So this has only greater flexibility to explain the work and future perspective. So here, this is how it is different from abstract. Otherwise, conclusion and abstract are more or less similar, very similar. It should be precise, clear, and objective. And the last is the acknowledgement. This is the last. So this is a typical structure of a journal paper. But while writing a journal paper, this is normally prepared. Suppose you want to manuscript, you want to prepare for a journal paper. This is done in three stages. First is first draft. Then second draft. Then third draft. Okay, just back. And so you have to go through these three stages. This is basically a rough draft. This is basically rewriting and polishing. This is the final draft. In the first draft, in this stage, a researcher can write what has been done in the research study, procedure, method, theory, and techniques applied. All these things he can write. Then he should mention the technical difficulties faced and how they were overcome, the broad findings, and he should prepare all the tables and charts that can be prepared using computer and kept separately in order to avoid rewriting them. And then you have to write a concluding remarks. Once you have done a first draft where you have written what has been done in the research work, procedure, method, theory and techniques applied, and technical difficulties faced and overcome, and broad findings and tables you have prepared, then conclusion, some remark you write. Then when it comes to second draft, this is the most important and difficult part of the writing. Second draft is the most important and difficult part of writing. Your unclear points, when you write first draft, then many points will not be very clear, and you might have used some jargons and some weakness in report have to be identified. When you go to second draft, there you identify what are the weaknesses, where you can add some more information. And in a second draft, then you too much generalization of your result you should avoid. In general, you should avoid. Then attention must be paid to the arguments made, logical flow of the work presented, the quality of supporting evidence, that what type of supporting evidence you are getting for your experiment, and conclusion drawn. So it is advised that you should never do entire second stage in one go. When you are writing a manuscript, never do it sitting in one go. Take your time, break between chapter or sections. During break time, think over the revision made. More important is then you can again come back. Suppose you think over what you wrote, and if you feel okay, I can change this. It could have been like this. So you come back again, you improve during the second draft. Basically, don't write second draft in one go. This research papers cannot be written by just sitting in one go. So you take your own time, give some breaks. You should do this. And spell check you must do, and always use simple words as far as possible. Indecisive words such as perhaps, somewhat, rather, etc. should be avoided. You should not use these words like perhaps, somewhat, rather, etc. You should avoid. Use of some of the particular words repeatedly. For example, very extraordinary, invariably should be avoided. Expressions such as it seems, there may be, since, putting, this type of expression should be advised. It is advised to avoid. Complicated, lengthy sentence have to be broken and rewritten. Never write very long sentences in a manuscript. Always, break into smaller sentences. The conclusion may carry something more than a repetition of. When you are writing conclusion, I told conclusion is very important. You should not just mention something you have already done during discussion. Repetition of findings indicated elsewhere, like suppose you have already mentioned something in your discussion, same thing you don't write in a conclusion. For us, the conclusion could reveal a special insight of yours, throwing up a possibility of findings being applied to a different situation or even different discipline. If that type of thing is there, you must mention that. So try to write the conclusion in a, also put a future perspectives, and your work has application in some other discipline or in some other field, you should mention all those things. This is how you get the second draft. Then once you have done the second draft, then you give some break, then go for third draft. This is the last stage. In this stage, one can concentrate on final touches and finishing. This should be in a direction to make the report weighty, authoritative, and attractive and convincing. So you should work on this direction. Use of use of I and the authors should be avoided. You should not, in a research paper, never write I. Care must be taken to use present and past tense. You must use wherever required present tense and wherever required past tense. Use past tenses to describe data collection and work done. Whenever you are talking about data collection and work done, use past tense. For interpretation, assessments, and discussions, always use present tense. That is more appropriate. And since this research article is to be read by experts in the field, avoid expressions such as "in other words," and because finally it will go to a reviewer, they are the expert on the field. So you should avoid writing expressions such as "in other words," and to put it in a simpler way, this type of expression you should not write. And always between the various stages, it is advisable to give up few days so that you can leisurely think of the manuscript and record how to revise it. So always give a sufficient time between various stages of draft preparation, and you should leisurely think of the manuscript and do your revision. This will avoid unnecessary tension and half-hearted write-up. So don't, if you go on writing in one go, then half-heartedly you will write something. So last but not the least, so how do you ensure that your paper will be well by readers? This is the important thing. How do you ensure that your paper will be well received by reader? How to do this? Before sending it to the journal, authors can ask their colleagues and friends working in the same field, your friends, those who are working in the same field, to read it and comment on it. Do not feel offended if colleagues suggest drastic changes. And also, you can you think back couple of papers which you have read and which has made an impression on you, and are still you remember them. Note down and analyze the style, presentation, and other features that have impressed you, so that you can write your paper, in the similar way. So this is what I wanted to tell you about interpretation and paper writing. I think with this, we are done with the research methodology class. One thing I can do, if you want, we can take an extra class and discuss on Friday for the last year's question, or I can just put this last year's question in Anuvidya. Anuvidya I can put, and you can go through that. So can anybody reply what we should do? Any of you, your suggestion, what do you want? Me to put the last year's question paper on Anuvidya so that you can access and go see that? Or you want me to, just one by one go through the last year's question and explain? Either way you will do for me.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, it is better if we can discuss briefly on Friday.
Okay. So, okay, we'll meet again on Friday.
Okay, sir.
Okay, okay, I will do the both thing. I will put the paper, last year paper, and also we'll have some discussion. We'll see each questions, go through each question, and you will get similar question this year also. Okay, so we'll meet again on Friday. Okay, any question for today's lecture? So that we can discuss, go through. Okay, okay, we'll go through on Friday.
The last day you have given one question as a homework.
Last. So, any of you have tried that?
Yes, sir, I have tried.
Could you got the result?
Sir, I have find that that the hypothesis is correct. Means what the survey has been done was correct.
How you did that?
I just find the fractions
How
and
you
I
got the
have just
sigma? It has given out of 2000 some 1200 and.
I have just did what is they suggested that according to example number 91, page number 91, what they have
Okay.
suggested.
Once you got
So-
sigma, then you can do easily. So the final
Yes, sir.
conclusion, how you made?
Sir, one thing I have to ask, in page number 91, they have said that because there is percentage is given, so they have taken sigma as 0.5. But here percentage is not given, here exact fraction is given. So I have calculated accordingly. Means I
You
have
have
not
done that fraction. You have to calculate the fraction first.
Yes,
Then
fraction first.
F into 1 minus F root, that will be sigma.
Okay, and the thing is that delta F is equals to whatever I have get the sigma divided by under root of 2000 because I have not divided by under root of 4000.
Yes. Then you see whether they are overlapping, those two, or not overlapping.
No, not overlapping.
From there you can make a conclusion. If suppose error bars are overlapping, then
Yes, sir.
they are from the same. There is no difference.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and if they are not overlapping, then we can say that it has really some effect.
So what I have get that it is 65.2% and 59.5, and the difference between them is 5.4%. and the
Then
delta F is
okay.
2.7%.
Then
So
it is
since
effective. That means
yes,
you know the problem it's effective.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see. I will also check that. I forgot that. What was the problem?
One more thing, sir, if it is possible to discuss that sometimes we use one minus something and sometimes we use directly the percentage. So I was a little confused in that. So if it is possible, we can discuss on Friday.
That probability, no?
Yes, sir. Probability.
When it is going to t-test, when you go to the negative side, then you calculate that by taking positive your probability for positive value and one minus that will be for the because when it is one-sided t-test, okay.
Okay,
When
sir.
suppose at that time you want to find what is the area it is covering up to suppose minus 1 sigma, okay. So then what I will do, I will calculate what is my total probability at plus 1 sigma and 1 minus that will give me the, what is below minus 1 sigma.
Okay.
You got it?
Sir, if just provide us one more example on Friday on this
Okay,
topic.
okay, okay, I will one problem will do.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay, thank you. So, okay, I will also put the question in Anuvidya and we will discuss. Okay, okay. You want to go through yourself in advance? Okay, okay. So I will maybe tomorrow morning will put that. Okay, thank you all.